Well, as Prime Minister, I would set the most ambitious vision for the Department for International Development to carry on their work, changing lives around the world, relieving suffering and poverty, and driving through progress behind the Millennium Development Goals, important as they are, giving those basic standards to every human being. And I would want to see Britain absolutely in a leadership role on those issues. I remember very well my visit to Zambia as a Home Office Minister, where I went to a refugee camp in the north of the country. It's only when you go and you see extreme poverty close up that you really do, for the first time, understand just how some people, fellow human beings, are living, and the pressures and the challenges that they face. And it had a huge impact on me. We were working then to work with the UNHCR to bring more refugees back to this country, and that's also what I would do. As Britain, we play a leadership role in helping develop other standards of living in other countries, but we also play our part in helping people fleeing persecution and torture to come to this country. So it's a leadership role at home and abroad, but that is what I would do as Prime Minister. And I've never felt prouder than speaking to my counterpart Zambian Minister, who said it was because of what Britain did on debt relief that children up to the age of 12, 13, 14 in Zambia were now going to school for free. And you know, people should just think at times about the changes that Britain has made to other people's lives and what that does for the standing of Britain around the world. It brings benefits to us. It's not all about charity. This is good for Britain as well, to be playing this leadership role around the world. And it's why Labour should proudly defend our record on international development and always set the new ambition. Yes, I think there's an overwhelming case for a financial transactions tax, or Robin Hood tax as it's been described. That case was brought forward by already people were talking about it, but when the problems of recent times came and the irresponsibility in the financial sector here and around the world has put governments and has damaged people's living prospects. So as we move forward as a world, I think there is now an overwhelming case for the financial sector showing responsibility, for playing a bigger part in the relief of poverty here and abroad. And I think the time has come for a tax of that kind. I think an international tax makes sense, though, so it doesn't disadvantage the financial sector here as opposed to somewhere else in the world. Let's take this forward as a global issue. Well, undoubtedly there's always more that can be done, but you are right to say that the failure to reform fundamentally the common agricultural policy is a regret, and I don't think it was for want of trying. I mean, I think Labour ministers made a very powerful case for reform, particularly because of the effect it had on the dumping of product on developing markets. I quite honestly believe it to have been unsustainable and unjustifiable in its current form. The frustration was, of course, making change within the European Union and persuading other countries to come with Britain, but Britain must carry on to call for reform, because it's about a fairer market here. It's also about a fairer world, and we've got to be at the forefront of those calls always. Well, I would set a lead, and it's exactly by showing how climate change is affecting the lives of people now, that this isn't an abstract threat many decades away. It is changing lives now for the worse around the world. And as Health Secretary, I worked with Ed Miliband in the advance of Copenhagen to show how people's health was being damaged by the effects of climate change, their access to clean drinking water, the spread of disease in sub-Saharan Africa. So these changes are happening now. The change, I think, has got to come through a strong voice at European level, such as the scale of the challenge, that I don't think Britain can act alone here. We can set our own lead, but it's working through the European Union, I think, where we really will drive world opinion, and that is why we need Britain engaged with Europe, playing a strong leadership role within the European Union, and that is what I would seek to do as British Prime Minister. As Chief Secretary to the Treasury, I did put us on the path towards meeting the 0.7% commitment at the last spending review, and that was a decision that also meant priorities had to be set, and we took decisions in favour of international development. Now we've set that lead, we should carry on, see the job through, because we still live in a very, very unequal world.